Budapest, once dismissed as Europe's rebel capital, is suddenly hosting history. Hungary's Prime Minister, Viktor Orbán, has confirmed what many in Brussels feared, that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin will hold their second face-to-face meeting this year in the heart of Europe, but without Europe itself. The first one took place in Alaska in August, where Trump failed to secure a breakthrough. Now even Ukraine, the war's central player, isn't invited. For the European Union, this is not just another snub, it's a full diplomatic humiliation.
If they wanted the summit in Europe, and yet the Russian-Ukrainian war is just a war in Europe, and they looked at the map and looked at the leaders, then it soon became clear that Budapest is essentially the only place in Europe today where such a meeting could be held. For 3 years, we have been the only country that has consistently, openly, loudly, and actively advocated for peace.
Orbán, who calls Hungary the only country for peace, says Europe's leaders are pro-war. He's offered Budapest as neutral ground, a venue that can host Trump and Putin when Brussels cannot. And he's used that claim to rebrand himself, from EU troublemaker to global peace broker.
If you look at how the European Union comes into the picture, everybody there is pro-war, except us. Logically, they are left out of this summit, but they should not be left out of peace. So I continue to insist that the Europeans should do what the American president does. The Europeans should negotiate with the Russians.
Within 48 hours, Luxembourg turned into Europe's complaint desk. 9 countries, Finland, Germany, France, Czechia, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Denmark, and Spain took turns expressing anger, disbelief, and humiliation. The common message, Europe's sovereignty, has been bypassed, and Ukraine's voice erased.
It's very apparent that Putin doesn't want peace, he wants to have power. And certainly Zelensky doesn't need the West's help to surrender, but on the very contrary, Zelensky needs help from all of us to protect what we hold dear, which is freedom and the free choice of people. Nobody can decide over the head of Europe what is in the decision-making power of Europe. And i.e. that covers the sanctions, which has been a very effective strategy to weaken Russia's war machine.
The Baltic trio, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, were first to lash out. They called Budapest's hosting a slap in Europe's face and accused Orbán of whitewashing a war criminal. For them, any peace built without Kyiv is not peace, but surrender.
We can combine these two things. One, the efforts of President Trump, diplomatic efforts to achieve the ceasefire and to achieve the peace. On the other hand, we have to hold the principles of Europe that we all agree. And the only place for Putin in Europe, that's in Hague, in front of the tribunal, not in any of our capitals.
Some Central and Nordic leaders took a softer line, acknowledging Trump's efforts, but warning that any talk without Ukraine would be hollow. The Czech and Danish foreign ministers said peace is welcome, but not at the cost of territorial integrity.
It will actually be the second meeting between Putin and Trump. I think it is legitimate for these two world statesmen to meet. It always depends on the background and what they are going to discuss. If they are going to talk about Ukraine and some peace on Ukraine, then it must always be Ukraine. Let's not let it become the object of the discussion.
What is very important is that we now demonstrate strong support for Ukraine, which is why we have also come to this meeting with the Ukrainian foreign minister. More sanctions, more economy for Ukraine, and thus also a signal to our American friends that this has our largest population, and we stand with Ukraine. We support the American president's idea of a weapon car on the contact line, but we do not support all kinds of other ideas about land swap.
France, Germany and Finland united in a sharp warning. Any peace summit without Kyiv is doomed. They argued Trump's talks may undermine Ukraine's agency and EU sanctions unity.
There can only be talks with Ukraine, but not over the heads of Ukraine. That the whole thing takes place in Budapest. It's good that there is such a meeting. But we must also remember that there was a Budapest memorandum in which Russia recognized the integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. This is not forgotten. We are talking about war and peace here. Ukraine does not need dictatorship peace. Ukraine needs security.
Vladimir Putin's presence on the territory of the European Union only makes sense if it allows an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. In the coming weeks, we will give Ukraine the means to defend itself for at least 3 years, thanks to a loan that the European Commission will grant to Ukraine, repaid through the reparations that Russia will pay.
Backed into a diplomatic corner, the Union has switched strategy, turning Ukraine's sovereignty into its moral shield. Across the bloc, officials now insist any outcome from Budapest will be illegitimate, without President Volodymyr Zelensky at the table. The EU's moral compass has become its last bargaining chip.
My wish would have been that it's President Zelensky who meets Putin, because it's actually them who have to agree on this. Regarding Budapest, no, it's not nice. I mean, to see that really a person put to the arrest warrant by the ICC is coming to a European country. Russia only negotiates when they are put under pressure, so we hope that also President Trump does that.
2 summits in 3 months, both without Europe, a US president who sidelines Brussels, a Russian leader who dismisses it, and a Hungarian prime minister who outmaneuvers it. As Trump and Putin prepare to meet in Budapest, Europe's foreign ministers may be right about one thing. The war may be fought in Ukraine, but the struggle for relevance is being lost in Europe.